Can't believe we're at the end of it. What? Huh?
Sandy's laughing. Sandy's cracking up.
Sandy's cracking up because
it hasn't been like that, has it?
famously not great at the intros.
No, you're great. You're great. Sorry, I just interrupted you.
No, it's all good. Yeah, final day. We have before our final day, we've got a ton of films and a ton of filmmakers to talk with. Before I list them off, we just heard from him. Elling, how are you doing?
Oh, great.
That's great. Sandy, how are you?
In a nutshell.
I'm doing awesome, and you're a superstar at announcing these and introducing these. So,
thank you so
how
much.
could you not be?
Oh, thank you so much. So today we have two programs again for our final day. The first one is a feature and short combo of The Meteor and the Moon, The Magnificent Molly McBride from Deanne Foley, and the feature documentary Kilimanjaro Mama. And then we have a series of short films that include A River in the Woods, I Hope They Remember My Name, Asking for It, Ricochet, Chickens, and Dead Hearts. So yeah, we have a ton of filmmakers to speak with today. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Elling to speak with Malcolm and Louise, who are behind Kilimanjaro Mama. Elling, please. Thank you.
Yeah, this movie Kilimanjaro Mama is a fascinating story of an orphanage in Tanzania and a woman from Ireland who's very driven to keep it going and improve the lives of the orphans there. And I'm really excited that both the director and the subject are on the call today. Louise, hi. Malcolm, hi.
How are you?
Hi. How are you?
So I guess, I mean, in broad strokes, how did this film come together? Malcolm, maybe you could answer that question first.
I happened to chat to a couple of people, two different people who told me about Louise and about what she was doing, and it sounded interesting. And I thought maybe I would just do like a short documentary, or just to sort of help her out. Because they need money, and I figured I'd do something for the website. So I contacted Louise and mentioned it to her, and she was up for it, and we started looking at it. And then the ball started rolling, and then we got a bit of funding, and suddenly we were making a feature film about it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the short answer. And yeah.
Yeah, and Louise, how did it start? How did it start? The film part of it start for you?
It started filming in Ireland because I'm a primary school teacher. So we started a little bit of filming in my school, and then Malcolm with the film crew came to Kilimanjaro for 2 weeks. And it was a very tightly packed schedule, as you can imagine. And we were shooting probably for 15 hours a day. So yeah, it was quite hectic. And then we filmed more when we came back to Ireland.
Amazing. I mean, this is a thing that is continuing. How is the orphanage now? How are the kids these days?
Well, obviously with the pandemic, it's had an effect on us. Obviously, everyone in disadvantaged countries are going to be hit the hardest, and all of our fundraising has had to stop. All of our screenings of Kilimanjaro Mama. We really wanted to use this as a resource to get the story out there, so that we could get our new children's village built. Everything is just on pause at the minute, but we are confident that it will come back around again. So we're just waiting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what has been the response to the film? Like I guess before the pandemic and during.
We just got back from Chicago on the 4th of March, so it was screened over there. I suppose there's always the worry when different nationalities are watching it, like what they're going to take from it, or if they're going to maybe connect with the story. But it just went down a storm in Chicago, so that was a sigh of relief. And it's been a huge hit in Ireland, as you can imagine, just because I suppose it's a local story, and I suppose people relate to me as well, just because I'm like everybody else.
Right. That kind of connection.
Yeah.
The Kerry Film Fest, we were just mentioning that earlier, that we've had the Nickel has had a connection to the Kerry Film Fest for a long time, and that's one of the ways that we came across your film. And we're excited to share it with people. And Louise, the really interesting, like it's so so moving. It's so interesting that your final moments on the screen for the film came down to wanting just wanting these children, young people, to feel loved, and it really resonated with me. And like there's this thing called the Grant study, a longitudinal study from Harvard that looked at like the health and success and job success later on in life over a long period of time. It was over 80 years that it's been going on. And the biggest kind of factor in success and happiness and mental health and all these things was feeling loved and being loved. And I just wanted to thank you for bringing that into it. And
well, I always tell people when we speak about poverty, we think automatically that poverty is a lack of having money. But the biggest poverty that actually exists in the world is that feeling of loneliness and the feeling of being unloved. It's so many people suffer from that. And I just say to people, if you're a child that has never been demonstrated that act of love, how can you grow into an adult that's able to love and to show love? You just can't. You don't have that skill. So I do think that is the most important thing, that they walk out of here thinking, somebody actually loved me.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that. I was like, it's really, it affected me a lot. So thank you.
Oh, good.
Any next steps for the films or film or
Malcolm?
Sorry, I don't know. We're still waiting on TVs to come back to us. There are a couple of festivals in Ireland that we'd hope to get into, but really and truly, COVID has sort of cut our festival run right down, and TV stations are just very slow to get back to us. So that's the next step. Failing that, I'm not sure. It may go online. I don't know. I have to sort of have discussions with Louise. We haven't got that far really. So we've still got a couple more festivals to go yet in the summer or the late summer, I hope. But yeah, and then we'll have to do the next one. Get back over there.
Great, do part 2.
A follow-up, part 2. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Thank you for this movie, and thanks for joining us today. Is there anything else that you want to add?
No, it is. Thank you for speaking to us, and thank you for screening it. I'm just sad that I can't be over there. I say I had every intention of actually coming over this year. I'm sure Louise would have come as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So we're a bit sad really that we can't come, but another year we'll get out there hopefully. Yeah. Enjoy it. I hope everyone enjoys the film as much as we enjoyed making it.
Well, thank you. I think they will. And it's this little window of seeing you guys is going to have to do for now, but hopefully you'll make it out here.
Hopefully. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, guys, for chatting with us today. Next, we're just we'll move it right along, and we're gonna have Sandy chat with Deanne Foley and Ian McLeod, who are behind The Magnificent Molly McBride, which is part of our sort of retrospective From the Nickel Archive series that we're doing this year. So Sandy, please take it away.
Okay. Yeah, first of all, just thank you for joining us, and thanks for having us screen the film again.
Hey, you're welcome.
Maybe you can just tell people who haven't seen it, because I actually hadn't seen it until.
What?
I know I hadn't. I know.
Well, I guess you're probably, that's okay.
Yeah. I'm a mainlander, if that's an excuse. I'm
oh my God.
Way in, but maybe you can tell us. You can just tell us a little bit about the film for people who just miraculously have not seen it to this point.
Well, I think Ian showed so much enthusiasm just then. I think I'm just going to let him actually pitch the story, because
first of all, there's nothing.
He's a pitch machine. So
there's also nothing wrong with being a mainlander. So I just want to put that out there to get things rolling. Well, this is a film that Deanne and I wrote and Deanne directed, and it's a short. It's about 25 minutes long, and it's about a 13-year-old girl, Molly, who moves in with her grandmother after her parents die. So it's a very funny film, as you can tell. And basically, Molly's dream is to be a champion Irish dancer. and she finds a former and now kind of washed up Irish dancer called Fergal, who was played by Newfoundland's iconic Newfoundland actor Andy Jones. And basically Fergal is now like a thief, and Molly finds out about this and she blackmails him into teaching her how to be a great Irish dancer. And it's kind of like a buddy comedy, and it goes from there.
Where did you get the idea for it? Was it a script that you worked on, or how did the idea come about? Because it is I have not come across as a buddy comedy that premise for a buddy comedy before.
Yeah, I think I was really interested in exploring the world of Irish dance. I lived in Ireland for a while. I studied there in university, and we were just really interested in exploring that world. And we've always been kind of attracted to an underdog story, and sort of like this unlikely pair. Like, you have this young, awkward girl being paired with, a really misguided mentor. So, I mean, Ian and I think the pitch was Irish dance meets the Karate Kid. And that kind of made us laugh. And then it kind of just developed from there. Oh,
sorry.
You're muted, Sandy. Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. Like looking at the credits as they rolled at the end, like really seeing some of the names in there. I mean, you made this film in 2009, correct?
Yeah, we're
right.
Pretty old now.
Yeah, but seeing some of the, like, Christian Sparks as like a first AD, and some of the, I mean, he's gone on to make some features and have some big names and stuff. Like, what's it like to, I don't know. I mean, I guess, yeah, like, is it cool to just kind of see where people have gone, through not necessarily from that film, but just how the community is, the film community has changed and grown, and just being a part of it. I guess I'm wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, well, Picture Start, it was a program that started in 2009. So it was myself, Sherry White, and Christian Sparks were the first, I guess, recipients of that program. So yeah, I think it's, and the program is still going. And yeah, I think a lot of people have kind of, used, that opportunity to kind of further their careers. And I think each year it just gives an opportunity to provide some training and shorts. It's hard to raise money for shorts, and this program provided funding to kind of give you like a $50,000 range to make a short. And for me, it was really important because I'd spent, almost 11 years at that time working mostly in documentary and being a field producer. And, I got into the industry wanting to make features, but, I'd only done short. So it was really important at that time to be my calling card. It was before telefilm was kind of funding, the micro budget. So, when I made my first feature, I was going after like, $1.3 million. So there was a lot more on the line. There was much more investments, and kind of really selling yourself as someone worth investing in. There was a lot more risk. So a Picture Start was crucial for me in sort of kind of getting my foot in the door at telefilm. So really, I don't know if I answered the question, but yeah, it was a great.
Yeah. And, I just want to, for people who haven't seen it, I just want us all to acknowledge how hysterically funny Andy Jones is.
Yeah. Well,
he's just gold.
Yeah, he is. And actually going back to that, like for me, being able to work with Andy was a dream. Like I grew up watching him and was always such a huge fan. And the fact that he agreed to be in that short, and it was just such a wonderful working relationship. And, working with him, he was just such a comedic genius that it was just a real gift to be able to work with him, and, kind of made me less scared of actors.
Right. It looks like it was a really fun movie to make, like a fun set to be on. I'm curious, what do you think that Molly McBride and Fergal Chase are up to today?
Ian, come on. I'm waiting for the one-liner from Ian.
No good. That was too big a pause though. The joke doesn't land.
Yeah.
If there's like some,
I
don't know. It's like I mean, that's 11 years ago. I feel like Molly's probably fairly well adjusted and doing something positive with her life. But I have
That's a good message.
Yeah.
That's a good message. Yeah.
I feel like Fergal, maybe not quite so much. But it is interesting, like, to sort of, because I think, I mean, obviously the film is rooted in her story, but it's also, maybe I'm just identifying with him more as a middle-aged thief, but like, there's something really compelling about somebody even at that sort of stage still following a dream and what that looks like. So maybe it worked out for him. I don't know. It's an interesting question though.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I love it. All right. I guess, you know, the last thing I would ask, or one of the last things I'd ask is, you know, you were talking about Picture Start, and just kind of the opportunities that provided for you and other filmmakers starting out. Like the Nickel definitely really is, you know, it wants to encourage emerging filmmakers in all kinds of different ways. So I'm wondering if you guys want to offer just what kind of advice you would offer to those people who might be starting out, or more in that stage, you know, than where you're at this point.
Yeah, of course. I think that the biggest takeaway for me was not waiting for permission to tell a story. You know, I think, and then like, just like find your community. I think I actually met Ian in like my first directing workshop, which I did, I don't know, what year was that? Like,
do you want me to answer, or is that a rhetorical question?
Yeah, I like tried to help. It doesn't matter what year, but we met. It was I moved to Halifax. I did this directing workshop. I met Ian, and we're still working together. And you know, I worked on Ian's short. He worked on my first short, and it was kind of like those are the people you got to find. Like, you know, find your community. Don't wait for someone to tell you to go make a short, and just start doing it.
I just echo that. Like, I think it's so. And it's tough because you don't really know. Like, it's possible to like, well, maybe you should have waited and done another draft of your script. But I'm a big proponent of just go make it. And, you know, there's so many people, which I think is a great thing, making films now. But sometimes it's a bit hard to, you know, as Deanne said, waiting for permission. I think that's kind of a waste of time. You know, it may never come, right? So I think if you want to make a movie and it makes you happy to do that, just go do it. And you know, don't worry about what other people think, but at the same time, hopefully be self-aware enough to learn and grow with each film you make, and really take an objective look at your work and say, okay, how can I improve? What could I do a bit differently? But I think there's really, I mean, I have a better camera on my phone that I never use than the cameras I used to spend a lot of money to rent, you know, in the late 90s. So I think anybody who wants to make a film should, absolutely.
That's fabulous. Yeah. Do you guys, as I was watching it and just like chuckling at the jokes of, you know, about Shea Heights, I was wondering, like, do you make films for Newfoundlanders? Like, is that, you know, like, who are you thinking of when you're?
I've always been interested in telling universal stories, but that are specific to place. So, you know, I feel like you're limiting, personally, if I'm just making a story for Newfoundlanders, I think that's very limiting in terms of the kind of storytelling that I want to do and the kind of audience that I'm interested in reaching. But I feel like there's more of a universal themes with the kind of stories I'm interested in telling. Ian's more Cape Breton, maybe Pictou County. Ian, are you more Pictou County, New Glasgow?
Yeah.
Who's your audience?
I just want to tell stories that people in the north end of New Glasgow can appreciate. And I think Dan makes a good point, though, because it's like, if you start out and you say, you know what, I'm going to tell a story that everybody in the world is going to get. I mean, it's difficult to do those stories. And I don't want to knock like big superhero movies, although I'm about to. Sorry? But I was just going to say that, like, I think if you set out to like make something that everybody in the world is going to like, it's going to be watered down, and I don't think it's really going to speak to anybody. I think you have to sort of follow your passion, and whatever your way into a story is, that's what you have to do. And I always look like, I think a lot of people are like this, that if they don't know what Shea Heights is, they'll look it up. Like, you can find out on the internet in about 4 seconds, right? So it's, I don't know. I think it's if you set out to, and you see that a lot in Canadian film, where people try to sort of smooth out the edges of originality to try to sell to some imaginary American audience. And I just think that that's a dead end. So
I loved just the nods, throughout the whole film. It was great. I don't think I have any other questions. If you want to, do you have anything you guys are working on now that you want to tell us about to look out for?
I did that painting that's behind Deanne. It's called Car on Street.
It's
and
beautiful.
I'm very proud of it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, we're developing some new stuff, and yeah, so just like more of like feature length kind of ideas that we're kind of working on right now. So still in the early stages of those kind of things. But yeah, I think it's sort of, I mean, I love that kind of dream phase that I'm in right now, which is like, no one said no to me yet. So this is like the fun part of dreaming and writing and developing an idea as that in those early stages. So sort of that's where we are.
That's great. Can you tell me your favorite movie? Last question, favorite movie.
I love Rushmore. Probably one of my favorite films.
The Apartment.
Okay. All right. I'll keep an eye out for that. Thank you very much to both of you for joining us.
And I'm so glad that you screened this film. I'm so proud of Andy and Julia and their performances. And it was really great that you got to screen it again. Thank you.
It's it's a great film. And just on a side note, I was watching it with my partner, who's a junior high school teacher, and it was driving him crazy the whole time because he was trying to place some of the kids because he had taught them. So he was very excited when he remembered their names when they rolled in the credits. So anyways, it was really, really fun to watch. So thank you very much. And yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much for chatting with us, guys. I got a little message from Tim Conway during the chat, reminding me Deanne won the first ever Newfoundland Short Film Award at the Nickel. So obviously the long relationship with the festival. Thank you for joining.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Okay, so next we have Rhonda Buckley here in the chat, and I'm gonna throw it back to Sandy now to talk to Rhonda about another film from our archive, Avon Lady. This actually played yesterday. Avon Ladies Rural Style.
It is available on Jim.
Is my mic working?
It's working. You're good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So take it away, Sandy.
Yeah, you were. Thanks, Evan. You were just saying that it's available to stream on Gem, correct?
I did.
Yeah.
My film?
Yes.
I didn't say that, but you know what's available? It's a 45-minute version of this because CBC does have it. I thought it was for the regional area because I signed that, but I've heard people see it out west as well.
Okay, great. Can you just tell people who may not have seen it a little bit about the film?
Sure. It's a film about rural Newfoundland women who sold Avon products, and they were the top sellers in the country. And it has a bit of a twist in that a lot of rural Newfoundland women don't wear makeup, and they have a very ironic sense of presenting Avon products. Like one woman used to drive a trike to deliver Avon makeup. And so more than it being about the glamorized idea of perhaps New York or, well, the glamorized idea of wearing makeup, it actually turns it on its head a bit and talks about kind of women and their strength, really.
Mm-hmm. Why was that? Like, why was this why did the story resonate with you?
All my films are about women and their strength. And I like the idea that women, who had, that there was an idea that women who are glamorous or wear dresses might not have that conviction or strength. And I like the whole idea that the kind of fashion industry or model industry of makeup still embraced things of strength and characters. And I love rural Newfoundland. I live in Salvage.
Okay, yeah, it's the whole turning it on its head. It's that remains just an interesting conversation, whether it's like, you know, just this week there was a women supporting women thing on Instagram that was going on, and there was a bit of a debate of, why are we just putting pictures of ourselves up? Like, is this vain? And then other people saying, I can be vain if I want to, and owning it. You know, like it's an ongoing conversation, I guess.
Well, I have one young woman in it who says she's actually farming. She says her own mother didn't want her to wear makeup. She felt like she was interfering with what, you know, she had created. And then she also says telling a woman not to wear makeup is as bad as telling a woman to wear makeup. It's like, you know, just let's stop, actually. Let's stop telling women everything.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. End statement. I guess. Okay. So some of the. First of all, I really did love this film. Like this is right up my alley for sure. But like, I guess when I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, like, would these women identify? Like, they probably wouldn't. They wouldn't necessarily identify as feminist, or at the time have thought of themselves as feminists. I don't know if you think they might have, or may or may not have, but more the point is just that they so clearly are to me. The fact that they could, you know, there's one woman you interview who, you know, when she works it out, her hourly wage is the same as her husband's, and to be in rural Newfoundland, you know, to be anywhere, that's still something that we're chasing after, you know. And so I guess just on one hand, it was, I don't know if they would identify as feminists, but would you identify them as feminists? Like, I see them as kind of leaders in that.
Absolutely. Respect. I mean, my mother died last year and she was 92, and my father was quite controlling, you know, or like head of the household and all that, because I'm a grandmother myself now. And but my father always signed his paycheck over to my mother. So there's a real sense in rural Newfoundland that women control quite a bit, in fact, in particular, all of the finances. And so would they have used the term feminist? I think these women of this age group would, but you know, it's like mom's generation were probably the original recyclers, and they never had a blue bag. Just, you know what I mean? They never got, you know, I don't think they ever wasted anything. But you know, there's a sense of feminism in the sense that they know they control their own destiny and they would never question it. Mm-hmm. Probably more so than some of us today, really.
Yeah, no, I really was struck by that, definitely, when and I've seen this film before, but you know, in watching it again, you always kind of bring new questions, and one of those questions, like, why do you think that Newfoundlanders, that there were the highest sales in Canada in rural Newfoundland? Like, what was that?
I would say because people didn't ask them to leave. You know, if they came into your house and sat down at the table and you were giving them a cup of tea, it's like, for one thing, in other cities, you wouldn't even get in through the door. And in Newfoundland, you wouldn't get out of the house, you know? So it's like, by the time you'd spend 2.5 hours with somebody, you had to buy something, I suppose. You know, you probably just had spent so much time with them, you know, that you had. And also, in particular in this area, even, for instance, the closest department stores are like Gander and St. John's, right? So like, you know, and they didn't even have big department stores in Gander at that time. So really online shopping. In fact, if I went to the secondhand store now, I still find like Calvin Klein and tons of stuff, because people are still online, you know, ordering in tons of clothing online here. Yeah.
Oh, that explains my great thrift store finds.
Up the road.
Incredible. So if people, you know, Newfoundland women weren't, well, salespeople anyway, if they weren't big wearers of makeup, like, who are they buying this makeup for?
Well, there's lots of products, right? Like, so, you know, they would buy that, what is it called again? Skin So Soft, and you can wash your car with that. And you can also, it's good for fly repellent. And so, you know, there's a lot of other products for Avon, and they would actually, you know, they buy for their nieces and nephews and whatever. And I think, you know, to buy makeup products, like, it's one of those things, people buy it and not they don't always use it. Like the woman who's in Bonavista Vista who delivers the makeup on the trike, like hearing her actually put on makeup, it's like quite endearing. It's hilarious. And in fact, when she said it, I realized I did everything she said that was wrong. Like she's going like, let it dry before you put on the powder. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I guess I should start to do that. You know? But you're always in a rush running out the door. So you're like, whatever, you know, but it's kind of quite cute, her tutorial. So, you know, I mean, I think it's just one of those things that women are always analyzing. They're always analyzed for how they have makeup on. And you know, so yeah, it's, yeah. Oh, you know, I think it also could be people who, anyway, identify as women and whatever. Yeah.
Right. Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I'm getting like just from the last two, the last two answers, just that, like the movie is, it is kind of a movie about, it's a movie about community. I feel like, you know, it's women's strengths, but it's like, you know, it was women were supporting their families and other women were supporting those women, you know, by buying car wash or lipstick or, you know, yeah, I don't know if I have any other questions. It's just, it's a wonderful film. And yeah, it just seems like it's about a few things at once to me.
For sure. I mean, some of the actual images are very political. Like it basically spoofs it on its head to say, you know, when we got the right to vote, when we landed in space, that kind of thing. And I'm trying to remember the date now, but I do think it actually was when Trump got in. And in my soft little way, it was my, you know, fighting back to the politics. Like, you know, we still think that we're moving ahead, and you know, on a good day, I hope we are. But, you know, there is something to be said that it's constant, isn't it? You know, like we those issues are just constant. And I guess a small little thing for this one is it got lower funding than I usually get, and I actually shot it myself. Which is really something I would never like to do again, I don't think, but yeah. Huh. Anyway, yeah, so, and it ended up being, it was both. I like just showing the 15-minute piece, but CBC wanted a 45-minute documentary on this topic, which I think they should not ask for that sometimes, but yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm interested to see the, like, what was the difference between the two?
It was very repetitive.
It was repetitive.
You know, like I had always wanted it to be a short piece. And, you know, I think they would benefit immensely by having short docs as their full programming, like 20-minute docs are great. I mean, there's a lot of subject matter, don't get me wrong, that only a 45-minute doc would serve, like women in prison and things like that. But there's certainly a lot of lifestyle pieces that can be done in short doc format, which it's a nice format, I think, yeah. So yeah, it was really nice for me. And I live here. So, you know, I was talking to people around in my community, and it's not far-fetched. I might be an Avon lady out here someday.
Okay, I was going to ask because you ended the film like that. So I was curious. You selling Avon or?
All of our careers are up in the air.
Yeah. All right. Wonderful. Is there anything you want to tell us about that you're working on right now?
Sure. I have two features. One is called Our Joan, and that's funded by Harold Greenberg. And it's so ironically, I just did a short film on Joe Morrissey, and I was funded for the feature film before the short. So, and then I also have one called Another Beautiful Day, and that's with Rec House Productions with Lynn Wilson, and that's through Telefilm Canada.
Fabulous. And just one last thing, you want to tell me what your favorite movie is?
Well, thankfully, I looked up something while you said that. I mean, I have historically kind of crazy films, but a film I saw recently that I really loved was Tully. Is that how you pronounce it? Julie, Tully? Charlene, you know, I'm so bad with names. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Anyway, yeah, thanks. She did a film apparently, and it was basically she had just given birth to her fourth child, and then this babysitter moves in. It's very kind of weird, actually. But anyway, I kind of liked it. You know, she won a ton of awards for it. So I was really trying to figure out how to follow that model. I want to win those awards. No, I'm joking, but it was really nicely acted. And yeah, I have had other films over the years that I love for sure.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you very much for joining us.
Sherry White's still one of my favorite filmmakers.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, thank you very much, and everyone check out Avalon Ladies. It's a fabulous rural style. It's a fabulous short film or documentary, a longer one. But yeah, and thank you very much for joining us, Rhonda.
Thank you, and sorry for the confusion. I'm trying to get through my technology here.
Yeah, like you're doing well, like the rest of us. We're all trying.
It was great. Thank you so much for joining us, Rhonda. And yeah, we're going to move it right along. And now I'm going to have a couple conversations with some filmmakers. First up, I'm going to chat with Brian Keith Montgomery Jr., the director of Chickens. Brian, hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you? I forgot to ask before we started. Where are you calling us from today?
I'm Los Angeles, California.
You're in Los Angeles, so it is early there. Thank you for joining us this early in the morning. Really appreciate it. I gotta say, I'm so excited to be sharing your film. It's a really remarkable piece. Could you just, for our audience, just talk a little bit about what the film is about and maybe what inspired it, how you came to the film?
Totally. So basically, Chickens is under the brand Alternative Horror, which is a branding we created in 2016, which is to take current events and turn them into horror stories. And Chickens is, we shot it in 2017, and it's done its round through the festival circuit, and it's still as relevant then as it's more relevant now than it was even then. And it's about these two cops who decide to go ahead and kill this unarmed Black teen, and they try to cover it up. And we see the aftermath of that. And so the movie, so I'm very happy to be showing at the Nickel Film Festival. Yeah, I mean, that's what it's about. That's what the movie's about.
So. Yeah. No, that's perfect. I'm actually really happy you bring up the alternative horror thing, because I actually was really interested in talking about that, because I mean, obviously, this is a extremely serious, I mean, issue, relevant now, but also relevant for decades, centuries even. And I think a lot of films maybe would play it all kind of like straight to the hip, but your film has such a style to it, and does fall within, kind of these genre things. Can you talk a little bit about, what interests you about that approach specifically?
Absolutely. So going back to 2016, which in America was a really terrible year.
Yeah.
Like 2016 too, this year.
Yeah.
So basically that year I decided to get really political with my filmmaking. And I was a horror filmmaker before it, but I was like, okay, I think now more than ever, horror is kind of like the Robitussin of where like it's great flavored medicine. And so I feel like horror films now are kind of like turning into genre films that are like all have like this underlying meaning. And I feel like bringing that meaning a little higher up at the top. So I love genre films. I love exploitation movies. I love gratuitous things for the most part. But I also, in the movement that we're in, I have an obligation to like talk about things in my films. So with this movie, I think it's the perfect merge of being really like kind of like pulpy, but then also just giving the audience something to think about with police brutality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I love all there are these like drastic color shifts and like changes in style. It definitely has that exploitation pulpy thing going on. But I think you're right. Like there's like I remember being younger and seeing like horror films, and there was always this idea that there was this like sort of political message underneath them, but it's always like a little buried. You really have to go digging for it. But but I mean, it lends itself to it because it is so transgressive, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, totally.
yeah,
Some of them are easier to spot out, and then some of them are just really not.
yeah. But I think it like lends so well. You tell me just shooting the film. What was it like? It's extremely intense subject matter. What was it like making that film?
It's funny because I was saying earlier, well, I was planning on making kind of a genre film, and I remember writing the movie out, and I'm black, so like when I wrote it, I didn't think of it as crazy on the paper as when I was writing. It's like, oh yeah, this is a normal day. And just like,
Yeah,
and then I had given the script to like all my coworkers and then the actors and stuff, and they read it and they were, oh man, this is heavy. And I was like, oh, I guess it is. I guess it is pretty heavy, isn't it? And so we started shooting it, and I got even more into like the dramatic side, and it depends on it depended on the cut, but like the movie was far darker, like as I was cutting it, and like I was pulling back and kind of like leaning into it. But in terms of shooting it on set, I often pick like protagonists who were very like bad people, like despicable people. I just found them to be very interesting. And so the lead in the movie, much like any other movie I work on, they came on set and they had to be extra nice to everyone to be like, hey, I'm not a racist, I'm just playing one. And then, but that was like the fun thing about shooting the movie is being able to like have play a character. I feel like that I don't know, you're so opposite from it, you get to dive into it like on camera. So like the Brian Ramian who plays the lead.
Truly chilling performance.
Yeah.
Like a horrifying man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah. But speaking to the horribleness and the horrifyingness, there's I watched again this morning just to refresh my memory before going into this conversation, and there's a sort. I don't want to spoil anything in the film, but I feel like it ends on an optimistic note. Would you agree?
I think it does, but
Yeah.
what's really funny is that I'm also not going to spoil anything, but I had a distribution deal in place for this movie, and the protests that broke out here in Los Angeles and then started to turn into riots, and I was like, oh, this is the perfect time to release the movie online now. And then the people the distributors were like, we're going to wait because we feel like right now the movie is too potent. And I was like, but why? Why do you feel that way? And they thought that it would invoke violence against like the other side. And I was like, oh, come on, dude. Come on.
I mean, what?
Yeah. Like, it's wild.
That's it's actually very interesting because I mean, like a little peek behind the curtain on our part, we were having our programming meetings and stuff and talking about the films. Basically like the week, it was either the week of or maybe the week right after this, like the George Floyd protest started, and it was like a
no-brainer.
Yeah, because it's already an incredible film. We had already loved it, but then there was this context and all this stuff. Anyways, but yeah, that's what I was thinking. At the end of the film, there's this feeling that there's this like sense of community and stuff coming together that I think you're really seeing right now, like actually happening.
There's a certain symbolic. I can't spoil the movie here, but there's a. Actually, no, I just can't say that.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, people should go watch it. They'll know what we're talking about when they're done. Yeah, just we'll wrap up here in a second. I guess I was actually also on your website this morning. I noticed that there was another short film up there that people could go check out. But also, is there anything else you're working on right now during these uncertain times? Yes.
So right now, I have Good Guy with a Gun, which is my next short. That is, it's coming out in September, I believe.
Oh, okay, cool.
And on Alter, the platform, and so That should be cool. That one is about an incel who decides to buy a gun. It's the most American movie you'll ever see.
I was gonna say, never heard of that before.
And so that one, and then I'm currently writing a feature
Yeah.
to make in a couple of years, and probably going to shoot another short in January. So just keep them going.
That's so exciting. Yeah, I'm so excited to see your next film. I actually thought it was on the website. I was just looking at it wrong, I guess. But just looking at the imagery and stuff, I'm so excited for it. Huge fan of your work. I guess the last question, I'll follow Sandy's lead. Favorite movie? You got one?
Yeah, man. It's a tie between The Graduate and Boogie Nights.
I was watching scenes from Boogie Nights last night. I don't even know why. I don't know how I ended up there.
Movie, that's why.
I was thinking about Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I was just watching that scene. So sad. Great. I could see it though. I see the influence. Well, really appreciate you joining us today. Everyone, please go check out Chickens as part of the short program, because it is excellent. It's an excellent film.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, man. And speaking of excellent films, we're also now going to move on to another excellent film. They're all excellent. And we're going to talk to Carrie Gamberg behind Asking for It.
Oh, that was a nice segue.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. Well, I think there's a lot of actually segues between Brian's film and yours. So apologies in advance if there are a couple overlapping questions, but I think there's actually, if you watch both films, there's a lot of interesting parallels. But before we get into that, if you could just talk about what the film is about and where it kind of came from.
Yeah, so Asking for It is about 3 high school girls, best friends, who are forced to deal with the issues of assault and the consequences of reporting issues surrounding assault when one of them themselves is assaulted. So it's been a long time since I've talked about the film. But yeah, I wrote it back in 2016, and it was a completely different short script. And I was developing it over the course of a year or so and kind of getting more and more comfortable with the issue when the whole Jian Ghomeshi thing happened, and the conversation of assault and consent and those things kind of made it into mainstream Canada. And of course, a year after that, the Weinstein thing happened and the Me Too movement, which was right the October before I was going to camera the following spring. And I panicked because all of a sudden I felt like my script, the things I was trying to say with my story were being said. And so I really spent a lot of time working on my script to make sure I was giving a fresh angle to the issue, because it was now being talked about. There was more light being shed on it. So I didn't want to just add redundant noise to that conversation. I wanted to make sure that what I was saying was fresh. And so in doing that developing, I really realized that the original story I wrote was not my story. And by the time I had shot and filmed and edited the film, it wasn't until about a year into the festival phase that I realized the whole time I was telling my own story, I just didn't know it. So it has an interesting development, how it all came about. And it's really topical, but it's one of those issues that the more we talk about and the more enlightened we're becoming and the more rounded the conversation is becoming, it's one of those topics or subjects that's moving so fast. The conversation is moving so fast and we're evolving so quickly that that to me was really stressful.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's also, it just speaks to the fact that just like, these issues of consent and our relationships to our bodies and each other, like, permeate so much, you know what I mean? Like, and there's so much, and I think that's really present in your, I've watched this film like a few times now, because like, it's been around a bit, but there is, I mean, like, kind of like Brian's film, it doesn't all play out exactly how you think it's going to, like it has a really interesting sort of perspective on these issues. And yeah, kind of going into I mean, it's stylistically gorgeous. It's like these rich colors, and yeah, can you talk a little bit about developing that?
Yeah, so as a first time, that was my first film and my first script. As a first time filmmaker, I made the classic mistakes of cramming a feature story into 12 pages, assuming an audience wanted to sit down for 12 minutes to indulge into my story. But the other big mistakes are not mistakes, just growth things, growing stumbling blocks,
Sure.
is that I, as a director, was so honed in on the tone and the style and the look of the film that I now, in retrospect, having done 3 films since, that realizing I wish if I were to do it again, and I am going to do it again because I'm working on a feature, I think I want to spend a lot more time with cast and story, because I really am happy with the look of the film and the tone. I think I hit it right on. And I think the cast were phenomenal. I'm so happy with it. But next time, I really want to hone in on the drama of the matter, because I was just trying to do so much on that screen. And I think I really succeeded with the look and the tone, but I want to go back and tell the story differently.
I think you're being a little bit hard on yourself, only because.
But you also know me, and I always am.
True, but I think that because like the style, like this like bright saturated color stuff, like really lends to the idea that this is like a real youth culture that we're looking at. You know what I mean? Like it really pairs with, with that idea. It feels, even though it's so stylized, it still feels authentic. What can you talk a little bit about writing like younger characters, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, I am in my late 30s now, and I am not I'm not young. I'm not a teenager, but I still very much consume that world. The TV shows I still watch, to pass my time, are still mostly teenage focused. I love that world, and I think in the story that I am trying to tell, and in the realization that it was my story and kind of unresolved things from my teenage world, I think that's why I'm kind of still stuck there. And that's why I'm still telling those stories, because I'm reclaiming my teenage voice and kind of correcting some things in my head, or just balancing some things. So in my, it wasn't even active or deliberate research, but my research is I basically live on TikTok and Instagram. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And it's great. It's great. And Netflix.
Yeah.
Great. But one of the filmmakers who has gotten me so excited in the last few years with regards to tone, and like you said, how specifically, or style, this type of style lends so much to this world, and something I was really aware of at the time, but who captures it perfectly, is Sam Levinson, who did Assassination Nation, and he's the guy who did Euphoria, which is it's Emmy nominated now, with Zendaya from HBO. It's a TV series. Makes me so excited. And it's incredible to me that it's this dude director who's capturing these young female voices and these teenage voices so well. And God love him, he's doing amazing at it. But seeing those worlds come alive in such a graphic and gritty and hyper way really excites me. I really love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of touched on it in your last in your answer, but that was actually something I wanted to talk about in the context of your film. Is that, I mean, it's very intense subject matter, dealt with intensely. There's some violence. I won't get into it too much, but do you still see it as being like a film for young adults, for teenagers, like as part of that pantheon, like canon, if you will?
I mean, I do. I remember what I was watching. I watched when I was 14 or 15, Kids came out, and that circulated VHS. Like, this is how old I am. But we were all like skipping school to be in our basements watching Kids, and that was traumatizing. That was fucked. Beautiful movie, but in retrospect, like, WTF. So it's interesting, because when I was actually developing, I did a couple of like table reads for exercise of this script, which were super valuable. But one thing I noticed was the people who were parents in the room had more to say about like the edginess of the film. And I don't know if they noticed that, and I never mentioned that, but it was interesting to me. because I don't know. I don't actually think it's that edgy. I think it might have been more edgy in 2018, but it's 2020 now.
True.
So I think the kids can watch it.
I think so too. I hope they do. I hope
Yeah.
they go watch it right now,
Yeah.
or right after this Zoom call. We'll wrap up here now in a second, Carrie. I guess you mentioned working on a feature. What anything else in the pipeline right now?
Super quick. I have a graphic novel version of
yeah.
Asking for It, the short film, completed.
I forgot about that. That's so cool.
Yeah. So with illustrator Tanya Gianelli, who is from Toronto. She's Toronto based. But I will say I am sitting on it for the moment. Because again, like when I went through this spiral of like, is it the right time, post Me Too thing for the film? I am going to just sit on this graphic novel for a few months, maybe launch it in Christmas time, because there is a lot going on in the world. And this isn't the primary conversation right now. So I think it might get lost in the clutter, and I just don't want to take up that space. So we're sitting on that probably till Christmas time, which is great. And then in the meantime, I'm still trucking away at the feature film of Asking for It and developing a couple of other projects as well, some bigger things.
Well, right, and favorite film?
I don't know. I watch TV.
Hard.
I'm gonna say
True.
right now, last 3 or 4 or 5 years, best TV is Atlanta, and I really loved Euphoria. Those are my 2 faves.
Well, check those out. I want to say, Carrie, I think you're one of the most talented filmmakers in Newfoundland right now. Love your work. So happy we're sharing the film this year. And yeah, I implore people to go check it out and keep an eye out for everything else that Carrie's got coming up.
Oh my God, thank you to the Nickel. This all started with the Nickel 4 years ago in a 20-second teaser.
I was gonna mention it, but I was like, is that weird to like, is that too self-promoting to be like, oh, we sort of, did the first workshop, but yeah, no.
No way, it's part of the journey, dude.
I know, I was on that set. So happy to see it years later. So yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Okay, we got one last conversation with Stephen Martin. We're going to have Sandy jump in for this last convo. Stephen, thank you for holding on. And Sandy, take it away with Stephen Martin, director of Dead Hearts.
All right. Hi, Stephen.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I am just wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the film Dead Hearts, and where the idea came from, how it came about.
Okay. It was something I wanted to do a few years ago, which combined a lot of the things I like, which is like Shaw Brothers, kung fu action movies, gore, horror, romance, animation, and throw all those things in a blender and see what comes out.
It's like stylistically, it has definitely a couple of those things going on that you were talking about. It's like I'm sure you've heard Wes Anderson and a bit of Tim Burton, and then a little bit of Bruce Lee in there just for fun. But I guess like in thinking about, actually, I'm not going to ask this right now. I'm curious to know, like you wrote a script and kids, like young kids, are kind of the primary protagonists. I'm wondering if you can just tell me a little bit about that. Like, did you know that you wanted to have a script focused on like using young children to tell a story about love and courage and all those kind of adult themes, I guess? I
work primarily with kids. I write children's books. So I guess that's where it comes from. And then it's like, I guess it was just natural to move with children for film. I think so. Yeah.
Were there any challenges to it, or is it just it's a world you're familiar with?
Yeah, I think they were great. I was very lucky with the actors. Delula Bella is great. She's on she's the starring role of Anna with an E right now. So she was fantastic. And Shanae is he's done way too many Hallmark kids movies. So the young actors were incredible. They were really great. So no problems with those guys. They were super professional, like amazing.
Yeah. Is this where? How many other films have you made? Is this like where did this one sit in your journey as a filmmaker?
It's my second one. It was my second film. My first film was another kids horror film. It was with I was living in Vancouver. I'm now in Los Angeles, but before I was in Vancouver, and I won the Crazy Eights. So I made it through the Crazy Eight Film Festival. You make a movie in 8 days. So that was my first one, and then Dead Hearts was my second, and we won a BC Arts Council grant to make that. So that was fun.
Mm-hmm. Like, okay, so as I was saying before, like stylistically, there are some like some really clear, like it's like it knows where it's going. Like, did you know, especially given that it was your second film, like, is that a style that you kind of developed that you knew you wanted to work in, or is that kind of what you developed as you went along as a filmmaker?
Well, I wrote the script to be sort of like storybooky, so I wanted to shoot it as vignettes, which are like, single, like the camera on flats, like looking straight, almost like a picture book. So that's how we shot it, and it was very practical. So like when we were inside the house, like we were only in one room. So in this way was the Milton's bedroom. We point the camera that way. That's the laboratory pointed backwards. So we just had 4 sets that were just in different areas of a room. So it became very practical too, and quick. Mm-hmm. We filmed the entire short in 4 days.
Wow. It looks like it's extremely lush visually, and it looks like a lot of time and care was taken with it. So that's amazing for 4 days.
We had a really good crew. I used to work on a show called Supernatural in British Columbia that used to be on the CW. So we the entire crew kind of came out, and I was like, "Hey, want to make a movie on the weekend?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "Please, okay." So they all came out, and so we had like 40 or 60 people who are all who are making like a great CW show like every week. So we had an amazing crew.
Yeah. Speaking of, where did the taxidermy dog come from?
That was from the BC Museum. They had a great taxidermy exhibit a few years ago, and I contacted them like, "Can I borrow your dog?" And they were like, "It's covered in arsenic," and I'm like, "It's fine." So
the children signed waivers.
Side note, one of our actors dropped him and broke his ear. So I had to bring him to a taxidermist to fix it. The BC Museum does not know that. So let's hope they're not watching right now.
Oh, that's too funny. So yeah. Oh, I find that really interesting that like your background is with children's books, because the vignettes, like that makes perfect sense. And I was going to ask kind of where that idea came to piece it together like that, but I guess that's your background.
Yeah, I've been working in kids books for about 6 years now. So my newest one just came out last October. That's a terrible plug. The Trouble with Time Travel. You can buy it in bookstores everywhere. So check it out.
No, that's perfect. Do you have any films that you're working on, or are you mostly in books right now?
I have a new book, comes out next July. It's called How to Make a Friend. It'll be the good folks at Penguin are putting it out. It'll be, so you can find that everywhere in July. And then currently right now I'm writing on a Netflix series called Trash Truck. It's a kids show. It'll premiere on Netflix in October. It's kind of like a mix between like Hiro Miyazaki meets Winnie the Pooh. It's a really cool animated show.
That sounds so good.
Yeah, the animation is beautiful. Like,
wow.
It's so crazy. Like, it's all being done in France right now. The showrunner is named Max Keane, and his dad is Glenn Keane, and Glenn Keane has done like oh my god, like he's Disney alumni, like Hunchback of Notre Dame and like a whole bunch of movies. So like we're really excited for this animated show. We think it might be like a big hit. Maybe, fingers crossed. Season 2, hopefully.
Right. Like the Dead Hearts is fantastic, and I even, although like there's a bit of gore, but it's super fun. It's visually, like, it's beautiful. The story is very whimsical and lighthearted, and I even watched it with my 6-year-old.
Oh, did the 6-year-old like it?
She did. Yeah, she did. She did. She had questions about smoking, which I'm working on, but
That's really cool. I'm glad.
No.
I'm glad it lands with like younger people. That's really cool.
Yeah, no, she did. So, so if you want to tell me what your favorite movie is, I'll gladly hear that, and then we'll let you go.
Favorite movie. I have so many. Just recently, what am I watching recently? A few years ago, Your Name. Have you guys seen that? It's so good. That's a Japanese movie by Miko Shinakai. It's awesome. Check that out. I'm also obsessed with this new anime on Netflix and Crunchyroll called Haku. It's about volleyball, and I know what you're thinking. Yeah. You're probably like, volleyball? That's not interesting. No, it's amazing. I thought when I originally watched, I was like, volleyball? I don't give a shit about volleyball. And then I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. So
that's the power of anime.
Yeah, Haku is amazing. Really, really.
Yeah, that's the second. Yesterday, asked our filmmaker, Japanese filmmaker. We had a woman in the photographs. We asked him what his favorite film was. He said Perfect Blue. So second day in a row, we've got.
Perfect Blue is great too. Yeah. I'm a bit of a weeboo. I watch a lot of Japanese anime and stuff like that. It's cool.
Amazing.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining us, and for talking about Dead Hearts. It's a great film. So
thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for having me. You're a great film festival. I wish I could be there. It'd be really cool.
It would be cool. I got another text from Tim during that said your first film was in our festival as well. So
it was. Yeah, it was. That was so awesome.
So hopefully more in the future. But yeah, I want to thank Stephen and every filmmaker. This is a big day. Maybe our actually biggest Q&A of the festival. I think perfect that it's on the last day, because it's been, speaking for myself, a real pleasure to sit here cozy in my winter chalet.
Yes.
and speak with all these filmmakers. It's been like a real joy. Mm-hmm. And as sad as it has been to not be in a physical space, to be able to connect with so many people has been legitimately like just fun. I've had a great time. I don't know how Elling and Sandy feel.
Absolutely. No, that's like, we're just a small festival, and so then the visiting filmmakers are always quite low every year, but this opportunity, like with this negative thing, that turned it into an opportunity to connect people across the world. So it was pretty great. I loved it.
Yeah, it's been a real treat.
Well, I think with that, we'll close it out. We should give a special, I feel like we haven't been doing this, but a special shout out to Phil Winters, who's been
behind the curtain.
Who's been organizing these Zoom meetings, and we can't see him.
You should turn on your video. Turn on your video, Phil.
Is he gonna do it?
He might not have his headphones on.
No, he might.
There he is.
Say something, Phil, so the camera's on you first.
Legendary grumpy cat himself, Phil Winters.
Thanks, guys, for having me back. It's been a good time here with the cat and the dog.
In space.
Shout out to Phil and to Ed Tennessee Chuck.
Yeah, Ed Tennessee Chuck as well.
Tech, who put the films online and everything like that, and the board and the programming committee and all these people, and it's too many people to thank right now, but really beautiful work, everybody.
Yeah, and you still have till midnight tonight, Newfoundland time, to go watch all these films. So go do that. Whatever you had planned already, don't do that. Watch these films. This is one day only. But we'll keep an eye out on the Nickel page. We'll have more stuff to announce post-festival, hopefully in the next few weeks. I think we're all going to take a little break, but I'll get back to it soon.
Yeah.
And
we have some pretty fun things coming up too. Yeah, some fun things.
Yeah, some fun things coming up. With that, thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for anyone tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Not in this context, but in a different one. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.